Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again, barefaced lies. Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you feel we never wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Hey son, you got a party, got that little party going on there. Keep to the left, you can't think right, so everything you do goes wrong, yeah. Incompetence just leads to disaster. Corruption brings it on even faster. What you say?
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Comrades, you always told us you'd build us all a new Jerusalem, yeah. You talk the talk, but when you walk, you only leave a crooked line there. And you don't see the trouble that's brewing if all you do is just what you're doing.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced lies.
Is this where you wanna be? Debt and childhood poverty. Won't somebody set us free from this corrupt kleptocracy? Oh yeah.
Barefaced lies.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise.
not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very good evening. It is the 15th of October 2024. My name is Raja Mia, and this is one of those Recusant 9 emergency transmissions. As in the tradition of these emergency transmissions, they are shared completely free to air, so there are no restrictions on this. If you find value in the work that I do, then at the very least you can press the like button on your YouTube screens right now. The work I do is only possible, has only been possible, with the kind support of people who either subscribe to Red Wall and the Rabble for either from £3 a month, which is like 75 pence a week, or through buying me the odd coffee. So the links to the Buy Me a Coffee are pinned at the top here, buymeacoffee.com/Recusant9, and also the PayPal link for those of you who want to use PayPal. I want to start this evening by sharing with you details of a conversation I've had with Greater Manchester Police this afternoon. It is, and this is no fault of the policeman who contacted me. It was Andy Day. I have no issue with Andy, and we had a frank and fair exchange, I think, and it is in response to a malicious vendetta involving the Zig Heilin Nazi uniform wearing Councillor Mark Hintz. Now, Councillor Mark Hintz has gone to Greater Manchester Police with a completely fabricated allegation about my election expenses, and I have no issue with the police wanting to look at my receipts. They're more than welcome to look at my receipts and go and cross-reference any of that with the suppliers who did my printing and the various bits and bats that I needed to buy. That's completely fine, and I am fully cooperating with the police. But what I made very clear to Greater Manchester Police was these are the actions of a red-nosed drunk who has been exposed for his duplicity, deception and betrayal of not just the people of Shaw, but the people of the entire borough of Oldham in the way he's got in bed with Arud Shah, a Pakistani gangster-endorsed leader of Oldham Council. Furthermore, I can confirm from the conversations I had with the same policeman and correspondence I've seen elsewhere that Councillor Mark Hintz has been contacted by Greater Manchester Police himself and is under investigation. That's right, Councillor Mark Hintz has been contacted and warned by Greater Manchester Police regarding his harassment of at least one individual, and he has continued that harassment despite being warned. So I look forward, Greater Manchester Police, you're watching this, you cannot keep running away, you cannot keep doing what you're doing, because it is not going to go away. I am not going to go away. The people of my town are not going to go away, and you have to arrest this man in the same way you would arrest anyone else. Being a councillor, being a politician does not put you above the law. And this is also a warning to the Labour Party, because I know, and I will publish the details of how one of your councillors was bailed for rape, and bailed for rape after the police, instead of going and arresting him, went and contacted the council, who contacted the Labour Party councillor in question and gave him the heads up. Now, it doesn't matter if he's innocent, it doesn't matter if he's guilty. The process, that process of giving a suspect the heads up is outrageous and it is unlawful and it is illegal. And these are the actions that take place on a regular occurrence in a town such as ours, where Greater Manchester Police is in bed with a criminal, corrupt local authority. Now, where do we want to start? There are many places I can start this evening. I think the best place, the easiest place, is to start where we left off on Sunday night's transmission. And it involves this man. His name is Harry Caffrell. He's the Chief Executive of Oldham Council. Now, the issue with Harry Caffrell is that he was brought in on a temporary basis and given a temporary contract, interim basis, interim Chief Executive, and then slid into a permanent role. And then he announced he was retiring, and then the council couldn't hire or couldn't identify a suitable replacement and convinced him to come back on 3 days a week. And also hired a woman called Emma Barton as a trainee chief executive. Completely unheard of, unprecedented. Harry Caffrell then negotiated an increase in his working arrangements from 3 days to 4 days because he was missing out on the nice work at the Greater Manchester Combined Local Authority. But to all extents and purposes, the work he's doing in Oldham is maybe 2-3 days at a push. Now in neighbouring Tameside, a coup has taken place where the existing Labour Party leadership has been deposed. And have been deposed as a consequence of the actions, the lobbying of Angela Rayner, Jonathan Reynolds, etc. The Labour Party hierarchy. Along with that, the Chief Executive and a number of her senior officers have also stepped down, forced out. Now when that takes place, when a council collapses like that, that's because that's what's happened in Tameside, the council has collapsed. The leader of the council and his senior politicians have all stood down, and the Chief Executive and her senior team have stood down. That's the collapse of a council. What should take place is that the government should send a task force in. Instead, the Labour Party have announced that they're sending in a clean-up crew. And central to those negotiations, my information, is the involvement of James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon. And lo and behold, even though it's a Labour Party clean-up crew from London being sent, which is unprecedented and wrong, it blurs the boundaries between what government should be doing and what a political party should be doing. The political party should not be enacting the policies of the bureaucrats. The civil service should be doing that, independent of the politicians, so they can right all the wrongs that need righting and also identify any other wrongs that have taken place. Now for some reason that hasn't taken place, and instead what we see is a Labour Party clean-up crew from London being sent to Tameside. Now the problem that clean-up crew have is that they need someone to front them in the council. And that's where Harry Caffrell comes into play. So this is a man who's propped up the corrupt criminal actions of a Labour Party administration in Oldham, helped keep them in power by negotiating some sort of backroom deal with Mark Hinds and Brian Hoban, even though the people of the town, of the borough, voted them out and reduced the majority to 27 seats when they needed 30. Even though that's happened, Caffrell, in his interests, clearly in his interests, and now he has been headhunted, for want of a better word, even though he's only part-time, even though Oldham has a series of serious issues here, to go and be seconded to Tameside. Now I know that the people I know in Tameside, and I live in Tameside, we don't want him here. We don't want a chief executive involved in the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of little white girls to move into another local authority that has serious child safeguarding issues. Because we do not believe he is going in to fix what's wrong. We believe he is going in to cover up the wrongdoing that has taken place. Is that an unreasonable conclusion to reach? I don't think so. The problem with what's taken place is there's been no due process at all followed. So the 3-day-a-week Harry Caffrell has been reported in the Andy Burnham-friendly Labour Party supporting Manchester Evening News has been seconded to Tameside. Oldham Council have issued a press release of some form, an update, a newsletter, where they've also made reference to Caffrell going across to Tameside. And they can't do this because Caffrell cannot decide he's going over to Tameside, because the policy officers, Caffrell and his team, in a democracy, they don't decide what happens. The elected councillors set the parameters of what happens and gives the direction, and he needs approval. Now, there's a meeting being called, an appointments committee meeting being called on Monday the 21st. And the date's important, Monday the 21st, where I expect this will be rubber stamped and a report produced. And for due process to take place, that report then has got to go to full council to be approved, because it was full council that approved his appointment in the first place. And that next full council meeting isn't until the 6th of November. Concerned by what they're reading in the press, the Oldham Conservatives, led by Councillor Lewis Quigg, wrote to the Mayor of Oldham Council, Zahid Chauhan, to call an extraordinary council meeting. And to call an extraordinary council meeting, you need 5 people to support you. Lewis got those 5 people, all Conservatives. I know conversations have also taken place with the Liberal Democrats and even the Oldham group, the genuine Fails of Independence and the Royton Independents, and they're all supportive of an emergency meeting. And that purpose of that emergency meeting is to bring Harry Caffrell into the meeting and have him answer a series of questions. And those questions are, on what basis are you going to Tameside Council? Who is going to cover for you here? Bearing in mind you're already part-time, and bearing in mind that the deputy you've had, Emma Barton, the trainee chief executive, has been, let's just say, away from her desk for a number of months. And your other assistant, Shelley Kipling, has been exposed for her role in working with a convicted heroin dealer and promoting him as a community ambassador. And for those of you new to me, everything I say is true and fact-checked and validated, which is why Greater Manchester Police and Oldham Council have all attempted and failed to have me prosecuted. And then after Harry Caffrell's explanation, where the elected councillors, our representatives, asked questions of him on a number of issues, hopefully including his role in Star Academies, that's the Tahidul Muslim schools, for those of you who want to know what the name was before they hid the Muslim name, Star Academies, and his role in Star Academies. He sits on the board, by the way. And under what basis, why that was not declared, why he didn't, what's the term, recuse himself, as in distance himself from all of the public discussions, negotiations, because it seems as though our council, your council, is about to hand over tens of millions of pounds of land to a private Muslim school specialist on the historical Tommy Field site. But put that to one side, he still has to explain how Oldham is going to run when a part-time chief executive becomes even more part-time and splits its part-time between two local authorities, of which one is in crisis. Tameside. Once again, people of Tameside, I'm surprised at you. I would not have this man come in, and I would be objecting. And your councillors should be objecting. Because our experience of Harry Cafferel is that he is not the sort of chief executive you would want. Unless your loyalties are with the Labour Party. The Mayor, Zahid Chauhan, having an understanding of the council constitution and Councillor Quigg's very specific laying out of under what basis he was calling for an extraordinary council meeting, under which article, Article 4, Clause 3.1, replied to Lewis Quigg and the others and confirmed that such a that the criteria had been met and the meeting would have to be called. Enter Alexander Bougatef, the Interim Borough Solicitor. Previous to becoming the Interim Borough Solicitor, he was the Interim Assistant Borough Solicitor. The term interim to me suggests repeatedly that there has been no external recruitment process, as is the norm on senior positions such as this. My understanding of Alexander Bougatef is that he is a personal appointment of Harry Cafferel, the chief executive. So there's a clear connection between the two of them there. Bougatef did not apply for the job from seeing the Guardian website or something like that, or some recruitment company. He was not interviewed through a transparent process. And I say this to my friends in Oldham. This is the position of the Borough Solicitor, one of the most senior positions in this town. Is it right to have such a backdoor appointment? Now, I have personal issues with Alexander Bougatef. Alexander Bougatef unlawfully, illegally attempted to interfere in my election campaign and try and take out an injunction against me from criticising Jim McMahon, who was the MP. Jim McMahon has got nothing to do with Oldham Council. Bougatef spent tens of thousands of pounds of Oldham taxpayers' money attempting to trying and failing to take out an injunction against me. So Bougatef has form on unlawful behaviour. And it is my belief that that is one of the reasons why Bougatef has been promoted in the way he has. Because he's the Borough Solicitor that does what needs to be done to protect Cafferel, Arud Shah and the Labour Party. Bougatef, prior to becoming a Borough Solicitor, and this is, again, it should be in the public knowledge, this is what he likes to look like now. You can see the bald head, the shiny bald head. I'm not sure if there's baby oil there. This is a picture of him in his younger days. Bougatef claims he was a model. I am a law graduate barrister on a career break. I am therefore articulate and presentable and enjoy communicating. I had a brief experience of modelling at university in 2000 when I entered a competition and made it through to the finals, coming runner-up and beating the then Mr. UK. That's Alexander Bougatef, the model. Now, I think it's in the public interest to know just exactly what sort of modelling Alexander Bougatef was doing. And I make no judgment on this, having myself had friends of mine who described themselves as models, but were really strippers, or call girls and rent boys. I'm talking about friends of mine who described themselves as models to the outside world, but what they did was something else entirely. So I think Alexander Bougatef owes it to the people of Oldham to explain just what sort of model he was. Was he the sort of model who used baby oil? Was you can leave your hat on played in the background whilst he took to stage with a courgette shoved down his speedos? Just what sort of model was he? I don't know. But this is your interim borough solicitor whose digital footprint, and those are his own words, and that's his picture I'm staring at. This one. He describes himself as a model who once beat Mr. UK. Is this a sort of man you want as your borough solicitor? I think it brings an entirely new meaning to the word solicit. He owes the people of this town an explanation, and in fact Harry Caffrell does. Who's going to take him seriously? Now I know I'm mocking him, and I'm going to enjoy mocking him. Bougatef, by the time I'm finished, the entire town is going to want to know what sort of modelling you did, whether baby oil was involved, what sort of music was played in the background, and whether courgettes were shoved down your speedos. I will pay the graphic designer, Ali Akbar. Remember McMahon tried to expose Ali Akbar, the infamous graphic designer. I will pay Ali Akbar to mock up a cartoon of you next to Mr. UK, Bougatef. Maybe I'll hand them out outside Spindles. No. Of course it's wrong. Of course this man should not have been appointed on an interim basis into the position of borough solicitor, especially when, and I'm no fan of his, but he served Oldham in the way he saw fit. Right. Paul Entwistle. And I'm no fan of his, but Paul Entwistle gave sufficient notice. I think it was the best part of a year. Paul Entwistle gave sufficient notice for Oldham Council to advertise and recruit a borough solicitor. Instead, we've got a part-time model who is now blowing your money. He's already blown thousands, attempting to take an injunction out against me, unlawfully, illegally. And now, in unprecedented scenes in this town, my information is Alexander Bougatef, the interim borough solicitor, has been reported to Greater Manchester Police for misconduct in public office. I have seen the correspondence to the highest police officer in the town. I have seen the exchanges where Bougatef digs himself a hole, and I am in no doubt whatsoever that what has taken place is misconduct in public office. And for those of you who are curious, misconduct in public office involves a serious abuse of the powers or responsibilities of public office. And if it is a solicitor, it's also a breach of duty. If the solicitor has a specific duty to uphold the council constitution and fails to do so, this could be considered a breach of duty. And that is what has clearly taken place. And I will explain to you what has clearly taken place. The mayor instructs Bougatef to call the meeting as Lewis Quigg has met the criteria. Bougatef then decides to get creative with the meeting he calls and claims the motion, because the meeting has to be called with a motion, it's in the Constitution, the motion that Lewis Quigg has decided on cannot be used because it asks for the removal of the chief executive, and that is beyond the power of the council. The problem for Bougatef is that Lewis Quigg's motion does no such thing as ask for the removal of the chief executive. It asks for a vote of confidence on the chief executive after he has explained himself, and all of the councillors can decide as to whether they think he has the capability to go to part-time to Tameside and still work part-time in Oldham. And what should happen is that vote of confidence then should inform the decision of Arud Shah and the cabinet or whoever who signs off or doesn't sign off. That is not looking for the removal of the chief executive, and a law graduate and barrister should have a grasp of English, a sufficient grasp of English to know that. Maybe he had his sunglasses on at the time, and I don't know, the baby oil had gotten on the screen and you couldn't read. So Bougatef is wrong in his interpretation, but he doesn't stop digging there. He continues with his deceit, which is why this is a breach of duty and misconduct in public office, and why it is unbelievable, it genuinely is unbelievable, that the Borough Solicitor has been reported to the police by an opposition councillor. Unprecedented. Because what he then does is thinks he's clever. Now, you know these people who think they're clever? What they need to accept, and I keep saying this, is that just because you're clever doesn't make the rest of us thick. What Bougatef then does is change what the meeting is about. Remember, it was Lewis Quigg who called a meeting with four of his colleagues, there were 5 of them, approved by the mayor. And when he called that meeting, when he submitted a meeting, he put down what he wanted to talk about, what the motion was. Bougatef, who's a council officer, changes that and makes reference to a report. The problem is, the report he makes reference to is the report that will, the draft report that will come out of Monday's meeting of the committee around appointments. Why would Lewis Quigg call for an emergency meeting to discuss the findings of a meeting that hasn't yet taken place? He wouldn't. It doesn't make sense. And Councillor Quigg has been very clear. He's not done that. And he cannot do that. And what Bougatef is doing is unconstitutional, unlawful, illegal. And Bougatef has not been backed by the mayor. Arud Shah knows better and has not said anything. And Bougatef will now be investigated by Greater Manchester Police for misconduct in public office. And Bougatef, whilst under investigation, should automatically be suspended, because that is standard protocol. So what's Bougatef trying to do? He's trying to prevent a vote on Harry Caffrell. He's trying to protect Harry Caffrell from answering questions asked of him by councillors on how he proposes to juggle both Tameside and Oldham whilst being a part-time chief executive. And I think what Bougatef is trying to do is cement his role as the permanent borough solicitor. Remember, it was Harry Caffrell who appointed him first on an interim basis. And indeed, Louise, and this is the problem for Greater Manchester Police. An increasing number of people across Greater Manchester think this of you. They think you're corrupt. They think you're criminals. They think you're involved in cover-up after cover-up. This is not healthy for a police force. Coming and arresting innocent people like me is not healthy for a police force. Being politically infiltrated, manipulated, the way you have been. But irrespective of what they do or don't do, Bougatef has now got to be suspended pending the outcome of an investigation. This is a senior council officer who has been reported to the police for misconduct in public office by a senior councillor. And the evidence is conclusive. Bougatef is unlawfully interfering in democracy. He is abusing the powers and responsibilities of public office. He has a specific duty to uphold the council constitution and is failing to do so. There's no ambiguity. So what can you do? What can the 200 of you watching? What can you do? What should you do? You need to stop being passengers in this. I appreciate to some of you this is entertainment, but this is more than entertainment. This is about the lives of your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews. Whether you live in Tameside or whether you live in Oldham, you should now be reporting Harry Caffrell to Greater Manchester Police to be investigated for his conflict of interest, let's put it politely, conflict of interest between a Muslim academy, Star Academies, Tahidul Muslim School for boys, Tahidul Muslim School for girls, that's who they are, and the transfer of public land worth tens of millions of pounds to an organisation he holds a senior position in. If you live in Tameside, you should be contacting your councillors and demanding they call an urgent meeting, an emergency meeting like we are trying to do in Oldham, to make sure that the Labour Party run council in disarray is told in no uncertain terms that Harry Caffrell is not welcome in Tameside. We do not want a Labour Party clean-up crew, and it is the responsibility of the government to send a task force to Tameside. Not a Labour Party friendly chief executive from a equally failing town, neck deep in the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of little white girls, to come across to help out with the child protection failings. You have. You can report on 101, and you should lobby your councillors. And for those of you who are asking when the meeting is and what will happen next, well, according to Bougatef, what will happen next, and it's, I have a daughter, like you all know. When your children aren't honest with you and they're chuckling to you because they even know how stupid their an implausible their explanation of who ate the biscuits sounds? Well, Bougatef's explanation is completely implausible. There is not a chance in hell Lewis Quigg has called a meeting to discuss a report of a meeting that hasn't taken place, that no one knows yet, and would be in draft form anyway, and would need to be considered before such a meeting would be called. There's no way the mayor would have approved that, because he would have laughed at it. This is Dr. Zahid Chawan. I'm not on the friendliest terms with him, but he's not stupid, is he? You can see his wry chuckle. Councillor Quigg, what nonsense this? You got any samosas? So no. The meeting is at 5:30, the extraordinary meeting on Thursday, next Thursday. That the 24th at the Civic Centre. And those who ask me, I think Councillor Quigg and all of them, all of the genuine opposition, it doesn't matter if I agree with you. The genuine opposition and those who genuinely believe in democracy, which is the right, which is to abide by the Constitution. We all abide by the same rule book, or it's tyranny, isn't it? It's anarchy. What needs to happen? I think what the options are, that this fake report is presented, and Arud Shah and her chums, Mark Mintz, I don't know if he'll be wearing his Nazi uniform, perhaps he should be, for a meeting such as this. No doubt Lisa Navesey will be chewing her gum. Hoban and Hindle will be there. You'll have to decide whether they've been paid to be there or not. I'll leave that for you to work out. They have the entire opposition, in my opinion, should do the following. They should make it clear that what Bougatef has done is unconstitutional and that he's been reported for malfeasance, misconduct in public office. And then, even though they call the extraordinary council meeting because of what's taken place has been unlawful and illegal, and in an act of solidarity, every opposition councillor to stand and leave. And by the way, notice how the Oldham Times is not reporting on this. Guess why? For those of you who are new to me, my name is Raj Amir. I run the Recusant 9 platform. I've been doing this for 6 years. What I do is only possible with your support. If you found value in this emergency transmission, then please consider buying me a coffee, buying me a samosa, or better still, subscribing, taking a paid subscription out on Redwall and the Rabble. 75 pence a week is nothing to you, but honestly, it means everything to me. I'll see you all soon, and I'll keep you updated on what happens next and how this plays out. The best place to stay updated is on my Patreon page, patreon.com/recusant_9. It's on my Facebook page, all of the links. I post on Patreon because it keeps me protected and it keeps me safe. And you can read the post there for free. Very good evening. Good night.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.